The challenge comes when I arrive at work, I look at the task list that's been set for me, and I think, wow, this is no good. I'm not going to be able to achieve all that. People who set all this don't know what they're talking about. What if we change our benchmark of success and we don't consider success for us as being...
Give yourself the extra half an hour. Explain the fact that I hope to be done by 12, but let's say 1 o'clock to be safe. You look for the good, to find the good in the day, and then all of a sudden, did you get to the end of the list? Well, no, I didn't. Unfortunately, we were never going to get to the end of that list.
Yep.
But what you have done is gotten to an end of a day with a positivity, a positive spin, which means you close that door at the end of an 8-hour, 12-hour shift and you go home.
It's really important to think, what does the other person need to know? What kind of questions are they going to be probably picking up the phone to ask me that I could tell them in advance? So, for example, people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. Hey, thank you for watching to this point. Really does mean a lot. We're always looking to create more content that will connect with you and that you'll find valuable. So please feel free to comment, let us know what you like, and any ideas of what you'd like to be covered in the future would always mean a lot to us. Thank you. Well, Luke, welcome back. I'm really excited to do another podcast. And we're going to talk about this new sign I've got, because I think it's fantastic. I think today is a good day, because I always think today could be a lot worse. But today's a good day, and I want to speak for a little while about mindset and the importance of having a positive mindset. It's not all airy, fairy or flowery, but actually the importance of having a good positive mindset, especially in the industry that we work in, where sometimes we can feel that there's so many obstacles against us.
The power of positivity. My mum has a saying which she loves, Oscar Wilde, we're all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. And actually, I think it pictures it.
I really like that. So yeah, today's a good day. I think specifically, let's go straight to it. You know, sometimes we hear in class, especially working with aircraft mechanics and engineers, how the day can kind of be stacked against us a little bit in terms of the tasks that might have been set for us. I don't think it necessarily matters if you're a mechanic or an engineer. It's probably any department you work in within aviation. And to be honest, probably anywhere you work, anywhere in the world at the moment, we can often find that we can feel we're not going to be able to achieve everything that we need, or we think that we need to achieve. And I'd like to speak into that a little bit.
It feels like it's almost become the norm now that you turn up expecting the fact that there's going to be more work required than you feel that you're capable to do. And actually, the mindset from that at point one is really, really key. For many people, they'll walk in and feel this obligation. I have to achieve everything that I do. And actually, the reality is you can only do as much as you can do. And especially when you work in that safety critical space, we can try and achieve everything on the list, but if you try and do it all, something has to give, and it's either yourself, you're working longer, you're more stressed, you're more anxious, or it's the quality of the work that ultimately you've done lots of things not very well. Either one of those things isn't really a great place to be.
No, I agree. So let's back up a little bit. So I'm going to speak about the engineering world, or the mechanics and engineers. Now, both of us qualified, and knowing the mindset that we often have, especially if we like fixing things, it's like, I want to come in, I want to know that the task list I've got, I'm going to be able to achieve, going to be able to fix everything that's on that list. And my benchmark of success, if you like, is if I've managed to tick everything off and I can go home at the end of the shift going, you know what, that was good, I got every task completed. The challenge comes when I arrive at work, I look at the task list that's been set for me, and I think, wow, this is no good. I'm not going to be able to achieve all that. People who set all this don't know what they're talking about, and once again, I'm not going to be able to fix everything. It's that feeling inside of setting ourselves up to what we think is going to be a failure before we've even started the day.
I think you've used the word achieve there twice. And that's really fascinating, because achieve and achievable are sometimes two very different things. You're given a list of tasks which you feel for you to achieve, you must do everything that's on that list. But if that's not achievable, from day 1.1, before you've even gotten there, you've already in a mindset which you're going to leave that day feeling like you've failed. And it's that moment of reframing and resetting. What is achievable by looking at the list, working out what's achievable, reframing what needs to be done, and then that output of what you've achieved is actually, I've taken the bottom 30% off this list because it's not achievable. Now I can achieve, and it's a double win. It reduces the stress and anxiety. It also puts into that moment that at the end of that day, you feel like you're walking away having won, not really having left something behind.
Yes. So in this podcast episode, I want us to really think about a couple of things. We're actually going to give some top tips of how to manage this. It's that perceived expectation. And I think there's a couple of things we can definitely leave people with. And this is what they are. Number one, we need to clearly know how to look at a list of tasks and ask ourselves what looks achievable. Once we know that, we need to really be focusing on how do we clearly communicate our expectations, or the fact that we can get such and such done, but there will be this and this that we cannot get done. And I think there's a lot to be said about clearly communicating, not grumbling, but clearly communicating. So setting our own expectations and communicating and reframing. I think we've got to reframe our minds, because so many people go through their working life or through shifts, and they set themselves up. You could say, well, they've been set up by the list of tasks that are unachievable, but actually, I think we set ourselves up with a negative mindset. So let's talk about how do we set ourselves up better.
I think the first thing to recognize is that actually sometimes you do have a list of tasks that isn't achievable, and it's been set by somebody else.
Yeah.
And that sometimes isn't perceived. It is very, very real. Someone has told you that you have to do all of those tasks. But the reality is, if you cannot physically do those tasks, it's back to that moment of identifying what can be done, and the communication, as you say, is key.
Yeah.
Pushing back to the team that may have set those tasks and say, want to manage expectations really early on. That list of tasks, I'm concerned I might not be able to achieve all of them.
Yeah.
What's your priority? How can
Really
we
good.
work together to find the solution on this? Because there may be 100 tasks on a list. 60 of them are really important, 20 of them are, a little bit less so, and so on. Having that conversation and go, you know what, if you can get all of this done, amazing.
Yep.
If not, if you get this done, that's what I really need to have achieved by the end of it. Having that conversation and a shared understanding of perfect world, I'll do it all. If things go wrong, I'll do these 50. If things go really, really badly, these 20.
Yeah.
And actually, you've got levels of success. I managed to do all of them. I managed to do some of them, but you are still understanding and prioritizing in a shared way tasks which can be achieved within your working day.
Yeah, very good. So the first thing to do is look at the list of tasks and think to yourself. So put yourself in the mindset of, I don't think I'm going to be able to achieve everything on this list. If number one, you know what the priorities are, then there's your starting point. Very early on, clearly communicate. I'll do my best with the others, but just to let you know, these might slip or be bumped or whatever the terminology is. However, I'm going to do my best. So that's the first thing. It's really identifying the tasks that you think you'll be able to achieve, and clearly communicating the ones that you may not be able to. But I think there's something else here as well. It's really important to think, what does the other person need to know? What kind of questions are they going to be probably picking up the phone to ask me that I could tell them in advance? So for example, if somebody doesn't tell me when they think a job's going to be done, but for me, that's really important that they do complete the job, I'm going to be picking up the phone or sending them WhatsApp messages every half an hour to say, what's the status? What's the status? If they say to me at the start of the day, Sam, hey, we can achieve this and this, not sure we'll get to that, but I'll keep you informed and updated. Perfect. You're my dream employee or team member, because you are thinking ahead to what you think I'm going to need to know.
That open, transparent timeline of what you think. And actually, as you were talking there, I feel those tasks fall into two different categories. Those things that the person wants to achieve today and those things that the person needs to achieve today. Good. I've got a list of tasks today. 10 things I want to do, 3 things I need to do. Yeah. And if I only do 3, it'll be okay. But if I do the wrong 3, it's not going to look good for my tax bill I haven't paid or whatever it may be. So there is that bit, but when you have that conversation of, I think I can only do these 3. This is the timeline of what I'm looking for, but make sure it's realistic. We're always ambitious. I say too much. I always overpromise.
Yeah.
And I put myself in this position where I'm always running from place to place to place. Give yourself the extra half an hour. Explain the fact that I hope to be done by 12, but let's say 1 o'clock to be safe. Have those open, transparent conversations, because otherwise, even communicating, that's okay, I'm only going to be able to do these 5. But if you say I'm going to do those 5s in a timeline which is tight, you're still going into that day stressed, anxious, and not even achieving what you're setting out to do in the first place.
Yeah, that's really good. One more thing on communication. So a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, one of the past presidents of the United States. I love this quote. And he said that people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. And I think this ties in to the fact that if you're a team member, then actually a team leader, it goes both ways. So to have greater influence, you mentioned finding out the priorities of your team leader. Well, when you go to ask, what are your priorities? That's you caring about them, caring about what they know. If you lead with that, you will usually have more positive influence, and your team leader would be more receptive to then listening to you if you think a couple of tasks are not achievable. Because you've first gone to them and said, hey, I want to do the best, but tell me first of all, what are your priorities? So people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. I think that goes both ways.
I like that. And again, that mindset of approaching something that says, how can I help you? Opens the conversation for the other person to want to reciprocate that. And then you're helping each other. You're working together for a common goal to achieve what needs to be achieved. And that ability to help opens in a way which enables that person to more empathetically understand what's being asked of both sides of things.
And sometimes you got to lead with that. So you might not feel like leading with that. You might feel that your boss or your supervisor doesn't ever listen to you. They're always, a bit grumpy. They think you're grumpy. Actually, sometimes we've got to take the initiative, not expect other people to. And it's not saying we're going to stop work. It's not saying we're going to be awkward, but it's just taking a different approach that actually puts the priorities of the other person first and foremost. Okay, so we've spoken about looking down a list, identifying tasks we can achieve and those that we think we may not be, clearly communicating, setting the expectations early of what we can and cannot achieve and communicating those. And the third thing really is around mindset. So the mindset, I love this sign, today is a good day. When I see that in my mind, it's telling me, especially if I speak it out, today's a good day. Now I'm going to go through the day looking for the good.
Yes.
Understandably, sometimes we have awful days, and sometimes we have situations that come up that that's not a good situation. But it's framing the start of the day with a positive mindset. And I think we've got to go into our shifts, if we're on shift patterns or work patterns, we've got to go in with a different mindset.
There is that phenomenon, is that if you are talking about a yellow car, you see yellow cars. But it's true for the mindset as well. If you go in and you are talking about negativity and what's going wrong and how it's happening, you look for it.
Yep.
And if you
confirmation
go in,
bias.
It is. Yeah, absolutely so. So if you can recognize early on that first 10 minutes of the day, 20 minutes of the day, as long as you can sustain it to go, it's going to be a good day. It is going to be a good day. My favorite saying is actually, what if it all goes right? Because we so often talk about, but what if this goes wrong? The negative. And you're already in that place before it's happened. What if it all goes right? Actually, how can I achieve this? It is going to be a good day. We are going to achieve good things. I'm going to set myself up to succeed by setting expectations, communicating those well, but recognizing there is good in the day is what you look for and find. And you can very easily brush over the challenges when you're looking for, it's been a good day today. It's been positive. I've enjoyed this.
That's good. So something that's going to help here, and I think I really wanted to share this with people, and that is, we touched on earlier about being presented with a list of tasks. Well, we can look at that list of tasks and go, well, that's it then. We'll never be able to achieve what's on this list. Once again, I've been set up to fail. Well, what's your benchmark of success? Oh, my benchmark of success is getting all of those tasks completed. Yes, but if you get all those tasks completed today, tomorrow you'll probably end up with more tasks because, fantastic. Luke got through them all in super quick time. So we'll give him more tasks. Well, actually, what if we change our benchmark of success and we don't consider success for us as being at the end of the shift, oh, I can go home, wash my hands and say, done it, I've finished everything on that list. What if our benchmark of success is actually every task I did today, I did it in accordance with, and I did it safely. And I can go to bed knowing that everything I touched, everything I signed off today, I did in accordance with. I was mindful of human factors that might be negatively affecting me. And yeah, I worked safely. What if that's our new mindset rather than the mindset of, well, I can never achieve everything that I've been set today?
It changes that dynamic hugely.
Yeah.
It does need a massive commitment from everybody in that organization. And it is really important to make sure that you are part of that change in pushing back, because the reality is when you go into a situation with I've been set up to fail this, it doesn't, you feel worse about it, the colleagues that you're working with feel worse about it as well. You can start that movement from the ground up to turn around and go, the success today is I have done things safely and properly.
Yeah.
It can be challenging because we talk about safety. What is safety? It's kind of the absence of something.
Yeah.
And that's why so many people often measure task completion as a measure of success. But if you flip that, A, the narrative, and B, the mindset, you can start looking at it and going, I didn't achieve all the tasks, but what I did do, the tools are away at the end of the day. The task is signed up. The handover is completed. I've instilled training with the new trainee. You look for the good to find the good in the day. And then all of a sudden, did you get to the end of the list? Well, no, I didn't. Unfortunately, we were never going to get to the end of that list.
Yeah.
But what you have done is gotten to an end of a day with a positivity, a positive spin, which means we close that door at the end of an 8-hour, 12-hour shift and you go home.
Yeah, really good.
You're walking into a family environment when you feel more upbeat, better, and you have better engagement with significant others, children, whatever it may be. It really is. That mindset is so key.
Yes, because it impacts your personal life. I know if I've had a bad day at work, how easy that is for that to negatively affect my personal time when I'm at home.
Yep.
I want to touch on something else very briefly, probably in wrapping up this podcast, and that is that other popular psychological model we usually always talk about. It will come up on screen, but it suggests that our beliefs and attitude create behaviors produce outcomes, and outcomes reinforce underlying beliefs. Well, the beliefs is our mindset. Now, if we focus on trying to get through all of the tasks that are set for us, we're really focusing purely on the outcome. And we may achieve that outcome. And this is where we need to be super careful, because if that's our mindset of it's going to be a successful day by completing everything on my to-do list, we are more likely to be tempted to not behave safely, to possibly skip steps that we don't think are important, or to think, oh, well, it was done last time, I don't need to do it today, I'll make sure I catch it next time. We're completely missing out the good behavior piece, purely because we're totally focused on outcomes. We'll get away with that, and many people around the world right now are getting away with purely focusing on the outcome because they're target driven, results driven. However, at some point, and we usually read about these in the news, and we're reading about them relatively regularly at the moment, somewhere along the line, the outcome on one occasion has gone really, really bad. Now people have got all the time to think about readjusting their mindset. In fact, what we need to do is be able to go home at the end of a shift and say, the behavior that led to that successful outcome was good. I worked in accordance with, I behaved in a safe manner and protected the people around me and myself and the safety of the aircraft. It's that mindset that actually a good outcome means that the behavior that got to that good outcome was correct.
Put it in that wider field of, if I don't achieve everything today, it's going to go tomorrow. But if something's delayed by a day or whatever it may be, whilst immediately, of course, it feels like it's next, in the grand scheme of things, a 3-week check that goes 2 days late, but guarantees it taking off, having a successful flight and in-service reliability time and time again. That's the big picture. Everyone gets stuck on this minutiae of the details. Right, it's got to be CRS by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. There's, of course, operational demands, and I don't want to be naive to that.
Yeah.
But the operational demand of 8 o'clock tomorrow morning when it goes tech at 8:30 because somebody forgot to plug in one of the plugs behind the panel. No one's saved anything there. It's just made it longer and less manageable.
Yep.
Look at the bigger picture and go, actually, do what I can do properly and well. If I can't, communicate it early so people can plan and put contingencies in place. But make sure the product is safe because, as you say, if it's not, they've got all the time in the world to reflect on what we should have done. We have the opportunity to change the outcome now and not wait for history to do what it so often does, which is just bite us and go, I knew that. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, that's very good because we don't expect a poor outcome.
No.
But we're often setting ourselves up that at some point we will get a poor outcome. And the other model we use, which ties in perfectly with this, is the circle of influence, circle of concern. And so often we walk around with a mindset of living in this circle of concern. And again, this will come up on screen, where we're so concerned about the list of to-dos that we don't prioritize them. We don't think what's urgent and important. We just live in that circle of concern. And when we're living in a circle of concern, that negatively affects our mindset. Actually, we may not have any control over what we are asked to do. So let's say that let's assume we have no control. We can either let that list negatively affect our mindset and we think, we're just being set up to fail, or take control over our mindset. And taking control over our mindset ties straight back into our mindset and the belief that we might be holding, which is, rather than the belief, I'm going to get everything done, or I'm set up to fail, actually, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to work in accordance with, I'm going to sign things off right, and I'm going to work safely. That's my mindset. I can control my mindset.
And that, again, is that key part. You may be operating in an environment where you may be not able to control the tasks that are coming down. You're not able to necessarily feel like you can push back on those tasks. But what you can do is control your mindset, control what positive and achievable looks like, because it is always in your control. Yeah. That is the one thing that no one can take away from you. They can give you more tasks than you can do in a week and ask you to do it in a day. But if your mindset is, I will do the best that I can to do today to deliver and do exactly what I'm supposed to do in the safest, most effective possible way, that's your mindset. And you go home happy, even if there's 20 tasks left.
Yeah. Excellent. Luke, thank you. Great discussion today. And let's remember, today is a good day. Work safely to get to go home safely as well, I think is a really important message. All right, see you next time.